Hi, everybody. I thought I would do a message today because, well, I've got no one else to talk to. But in addition to that, actually, I think I wanted to say something about this second week. Now we're in our second week of this experience. And if my instincts are correct, we're going to shift a little bit on our inside. I think this week we're going to feel this experience of what's happening to us a little bit more deeply. I mean, last week it was new, and this week it's going to sink in. I think this week the isolation is going to feel differently. It's going to penetrate into our blood and bones. I think the anxiety is going to rise a little bit. I think the reality that our lives are changing is really going to sink in. Think of it as threads and dominoes, that the domino effect is going to hit us as we watch familiar things begin to fall. And they are going to fall. And then there's the threads. And it's the threads that are going to go forward, which is all that will be born from this. And the dominoes, all that we're going to lose from this. Both are true at the same time. And the threads are we have to generate those. That's going to come from us. That's going to come from how we cope, how we process this. And the dominoes are inevitable. But I want you to think about something. And I'm going to examine this deeply as we go into my reflections class. And the first one is going to be on the preparation, the long preparation for what we're going through now. But as I said in a previous time with you, previous video, this isn't new. We were expecting something. The atmosphere has been pregnant with anxiety for some time. Something was going to give. We were either something through climate change or something through war or something through fires breaking out. Something was going to change. Our movies were filled with that message. Our conversations were filled with it. We could feel something coming, and now it's here. Something had to break. That was finally the catalyst that was going to move us to this next stage of choice. That's what this is. It's a stage of choice. It's a stage of profound inner decision making for every single person. The types of decisions, the depth of decisions, are all at soul level. Well, let me say they include soul level, but they begin at soul level. And remember, I want you to focus on if I had you one-on-one in spiritual direction, and if this was an ordinary crisis, well, there's no such thing as an ordinary crisis, but if you said, look, everything has fallen apart, where would you begin? And the beginning would be with what have you lost and why? And how do we shape your attitude, your thought? How are you going to see this journey? We begin at the beginning, at that shaping the pieces of you, finding your strength in this journey. Looking on the outside is not going to help. That's not where we go. And as I say to people, you can't go back because there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And that there is some comfort in knowing that this message is the same for everybody. I mean, this is the first time in the history of humanity, when we really are all in this together. There's never been such an experience. I mean, there have been wars, world wars, the last World War, but still, people were not all in it equally together. The United States was not. It sent its soldiers, but there were no bombs in this country. There was no starvation in this country. There was no refugees moving from state to state, losing their homes like they did throughout Europe or throughout Asia on the Asian front of the war. We didn't have the same kinds of experience of war in Canada, or Canadian soldiers fought, but it wasn't the same thing. Now it is. Now we are all in the psychic trenches together. And in a sense, we entered the age of energy, something I'm going to go into in depth as we explore the preparation, the Rubicon we crossed when we entered the nuclear age. We shifted to an energy species. And there's so much about this that is vibrational, that is invisible, that we have to understand the power of our magnetic field, the laws. The nature of God is law. For the last, I don't know how many years or whatever, there were all those books on, the laws of attraction and how people interpreted it used to drive me crazy. And the last thing you want to see is me in the crazy gear. But honestly, I would have to almost anesthetize myself when I would listen to people apply the laws of the universe. These are mystical laws. These are the laws of God to acquiring goods. I want to get this. I want to get that. These are high mystical truths, as we will examine in the weeks ahead. These are the laws of the soul. These are laws of creation. Cause and effect, magnetic attraction. What the content of your soul is, and how that content is attracting the substance you cannot see to your soul. And unless you know what the nature of the soul and what it is you're generating, and by generating, what it is that's moving from within, how would you possibly know what you're attracting? How can you know that? And how do you know the nature, the content of your soul, unless you know how to get in your soul? Unless you know that. People say, what is your soul? What is that? The soul is your creative ally. The soul is that part of you that understands your instinct to live. Your instinct that tells you at the depth you have to survive, and you will. It's that part of you that is mystically unreasonable. It doesn't sound like your mind. It is profoundly different. It's that part of you that, in June, I was with my friend Ellen, and we were in a hotel. We were going to watch TV, and all of a sudden, I got a download, and boom, I saw. And when I say saw, your soul has different senses. It perceives. It doesn't see. It perceives. And it has a kairos sense about it. And I got that all life breathes together. And that it was time for us to connect, to take all that we've learned about healing and heal each other. That the missing link was that we have to empower each other now, that we have to step out of ourselves and build bridges to the whole, that was the missing link. And right after that, the world began to shift on its axis. I got it. And I remember flying home with Ellen, and we were in the plane, and I was writing notes down from this, and I could hardly hold my pen still. Ellen thought I was going to explode out of my seat, but I could feel the fire coming down. And the next day, I told David, I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Breathe Together, how healing ourselves heals the whole. And then I taught it through Australia, and I'm now going to teach this to you. This will be part of where we're going in the weeks ahead. Because this, I believe, is part of what will heal this virus. I think it's part of the healing is definitely in us. The transition to getting, we are one. We are one. The laws that have been pouring into us in these last years that we've learned in our heads, but we haven't activated the power of these laws. And that's the mystical part. What's a mystical experience? It's when what you know wakes up in you and it becomes who you are. Who you are. So, wait a minute. I had something else I wanted to tell you. I think prayer, of course, prayer is a deep part of my life. It's a big, huge, deep part of my life. And obviously, I'm encouraging that in you. And when I was writing this book on prayer, I wanted to do a chapter on what is prayer and how do you pray and all of that. And I don't, it didn't quite make it in the way I wanted it to, so I have to tell you about it. I think one of the questions I get quite often, and I get it, is, who's out there? And because sometimes when you're praying, you can feel like you're talking to yourself. And I get that, but you're not. You're not. In some way I cannot describe, and I don't get it. Every prayer is heard. Every single word you say is heard. And the best image I can give you is that you're walking in God. There is no off-planet God. There is no off-planet human being. There's not that's bigger than us, or an off-planet male or something like that. Those days are over. Thank God. But the best way is to get that all creation is an expression of God. Not an expression. That word isn't even big enough. It is God. It is God, which means you're walking in the substance of God, in the actual substance of God. So how can everything you do and say and think not be felt within the nature of God? That is how you have to try and just dwell in that you're walking in God, breathing with God. And when you pray for healing and protection, just say, I need you to wrap me up right now, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid, and I'm terrified right now. And just breathe in that substance and imagine that you are breathing in God. Just breathe it in. I wish I could just transfer how much I believe this, how much I know it's true. I wish I could just transfer that to you. I have a prayer I'd like to end on. These prayers are going to be available in my book. I'm not pushing my book. I'm just telling you because so many people ask for these prayers afterwards, and the book will be out in a few months. So, okay. How do I describe the spiritual path to another person, Lord? Help me out. I'm asked about the spiritual path so often, and it's not a small question. It's a game changer for people. And every time I answer it for someone, which is all the time, I listen to myself making something up. Should I tell the person the truth? Should I tell people that my spiritual path amounts to quiet times of contemplation with you? And I ponder, I ask, I listen, I wait, and then when I'm distracted, busy with my day, thoughts occur to me that have nothing to do with what I'm thinking about at the time. And I know it's you. They are always the answers to the questions I was praying about earlier that day, before, sometimes even much longer ago than that, but they're always the answer to a prayer. The timing is always up to you. Silence is also an answer. And that truth took me a while to adjust to, but I've learned to trust it. I've also learned that I must ask with detachment and receive without expectations. And that, I admit, took me years and years and years to grasp that dynamic. How simple it would be to just tell each person that their entire life is their spiritual path. So there, take it or leave it. Every relationship we have is a companion on our spiritual path, like it or not. Now do with your life what you want. I asked one person what exactly it was he was seeking on his path. He said he wasn't sure, but I was. He was looking for romantic love. Love, not you. He was looking for love. But falling in love is also part of a spiritual path, and he'll find that out. How simple this business of a spiritual quest would be if only people really understood that everything is a manifestation of the partnership between the human spirit and you, even romantic love. Amen. Okay. I'll send you another message soon, and stay safe, everybody.